about the proprietary, so private. So it's like we own a lot, we own the property, but Malaysia's claiming that it's their property. So ito na, nirule out na ng court na it's clear that it is our property and that Malaysia needs to pay $14.9 billion for a property that we never benefited from. Buti na lang, ito, may mga magagaling na mga abogado and may mga concerned groups who helped us. Ito nga, to help us get the justice that I think we, not just the Sultanate, no, but the Filipinos deserve.
The Sultan, who was the beneficiary of the North Borneo trophy, was Sultan Salahuddin Karamat. And the Sultan Salahuddin Karamat is 7 generations ahead of Kiram, ahead of Badin, ahead of Denalabirin. So it does not include only the Kiram families or the heirs. There are also the other families of the Sultanate.
Banda na naman, nakabanda na naman tayo.
Two coaches meet.
I wonder what he said, wearing George shook his hand. You don't have the right player, you don't have enough players.
That's the final count.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The big story tonight.
An international law expert says President Marcos should clarify the country's position in the dispute over Sabah.
This comes on the heels of an arbitral ruling favoring heirs of the late Sultan of Sulu in a $15 billion deal case. Speaking to News 5, Attorney Harry Roque said there should be a clarification from the palace on whether the Philippine government will assert its claim over Sabah or whether the case is merely a property claim of the Sultanate of Sulu. Roque believes the Philippines now has a stronger claim for sovereignty over Sabah, with the arbitral decision favoring Sultan Jamalul Kiram's descendants.
Meanwhile, other sultanates of Sulu are appealing for reconsideration over the arbitral ruling. They say it must not be limited just to the heirs of Kiram. Sultan and Dr. Ibrahim Bajin Shakirullah II told One News the chiefs that the ruling should also include the sultanates of Shakirullah and Alimuddin.
The Sultan, who was the beneficiary of the North Borneo trophy, was Sultan Salahuddin Karamat. And the Sultan Salahuddin Karamat is 7 generations ahead of Kiram, ahead of Badin, ahead of Denalabirin. It does not include only the Kiram families or the heirs. There are also the other families of the Sultanate.
To share more of his insights on the matter, we have with us on the show international law expert Attorney Harry Roque. He's joining us live via Zoom. Attorney Roque, welcome to the big story.
Yes, good evening, Robbie. Good evening, Gretchen. And good evening, Philippines.
Hey, Attorney Roque, before we get to the question of sovereignty, maybe as a lawyer you could explain to us first the nature of this case. Is this essentially a private case?
Well, as it is, because it is an arbitral decision filed by the descendants of the Sultanate of Sulu and pursuant to an arbitration clause, it is a private case. The problem, though, is that the Sultanate of Sulu had already assigned all the rights over Sabah to the Philippine government. And that is why the Sabah issue has become a Philippine issue and not just a private matter for the Sultanate of Sulu. Don't get me wrong. I think the Sultanate of Sulu should be satisfied, should be paid their proprietary rights. They leased the land. The lease payments were withheld in 2013, and they should be compensated for all the property rights that the Malaysians benefited from Sabah. No? But at the same time, do not forget that this is a sovereignty issue because precisely of the assignment made during the time of President Macapagal, no? Where the Sultanate, in very clear words, assigned all the rights to Sabah to the Philippine government.
Okay, then let's get to that point now. Implications for the Philippine government, how should they handle it?
Well, that's why I said the President should clarify now whether or not we will merely allow the Sultanate of Sulu to have their proprietary rights satisfied, in which case we should support the arbitration, or whether or not we should set aside the issue of proprietary rights and say that this is without prejudice to the issue of sovereignty. But in any case, the decision bolsters the claim of the Philippines precisely because the arbitral ruling said that because there is a breach on the part of Malaysia and its predecessor in interest to continue paying the rent, then the contract had ceased to have legal validity and the parties must be restored to the status quo ante, meaning it must be transferred back to the Sultanate of Sulu, it must be transferred back to the Philippines.
Malaysia has already said that they won't budge over this arbitral decision. How much teeth does this actually have, and who will be enforcing the decision?
Well, comparing this with the West Philippine Sea arbitration, no? The advantage of this claim being a private claim is that they can rely on what is known as the New York Convention, whereby all signatory countries to that convention agree to enforce arbitral decisions as if they are final and executory decisions of their domestic courts. There's a temporary setback because the French court said it cannot be enforced in France, but of course, that does not apply to all the 162 countries which are signatories to the New York Convention.
Could you explain that again, just a basic thing, because everybody's been trying to wrap their heads around this when the first news broke that a bailiff in Luxembourg had served an order for this, and it was phrased in news as basically serving a seizure order. What is it essentially? How do we get a grasp of what actually happened in Luxembourg? What does it actually illustrate by way of enforcement?
Well, in 1878, when the Sultanate of Sulu entered into a contract of pajak with Overbend and Dent, the legitimate representatives of the British government in Malaysia then, they entered into a contract of lease where in exchange of the transfer of sovereignty and possession over Sabah, they will be paid 500 Mexican dollars per year. They defaulted on that obligation, and because of the default, the heirs now invoke the arbitration clause, which basically is asking or asks the arbitration tribunal to rule that, number one, Malaysia is in default, and as a consequence, they should not just be made to pay for the rent, but they should be made to pay for all the foregone income that the Sultanate of Sulu did not receive as a result of their breach. And that is why the amount reached 15 billion, because in modern international law, compensation for property taken by foreign governments will include not only the physical value of the assets, but the foregone income as well, which is referred to in international law as lucrum cessans. And that is why the amount is 15 billion. No? It's not just the rental payments that were paid, but all the income that Malaysia deprived the Sultanate of Sulu as a result of the failure to pay the rental payments.
Attorney Harry, one last question. It's messy enough trying to anticipate what the implication might be if it is raised as a matter of sovereignty between Malaysia and the Philippines, for that matter, geopolitical considerations across ASEAN. It's messy enough without considering the mess at ground level, particularly with families, the different sultanates. Now other sultanates other descendants of sultanates are claiming that, uy, kami rin, not just the Kirams. How complicated and how much of a spanner does that throw in this entire case?
Well, it's not complicated at all. The title of the Philippines is derived from the assignment made by the Sultanate of Sulu, and the title in turn of the Sultanate of Sulu is pursuant to a 1700 Treaty of Cession, whereby the Sultanate of Brunei ceded to the Sultanate of Sulu half of what we know today as Sabah. Take note that the other half continues to remain under the ownership of the Sultanate of Brunei, but the heirs of the Sultanate of Brunei have not been enforcing their claim, unlike the Sultanate of Sulu. Now, as to who are the descendants of the Sultanate of Sulu, you see the parties in the arbitration relied on what is known as the Makaski decision, which is a decision of a UK English court in Malaysia, where after the last male heir of the Sultanate of Sulu died, the heirs went to court to adjudicate who amongst themselves should be recognized as descendants of the Sultanate of Sulu. No? So these are now the 8 descendants that are parties to the case. And their standing is because they have a valid English court decision recognizing them as the lawful descendants of the Sultanate of Sulu. There's nothing complicated about it. Although I have to admit, this will cause nightmares for diplomats, but I think inevitably there will be a diplomatic solution.
Okay, maraming salamat po, Attorney Harry Roque. And then after the break, we'll talk about Gilas Pilipinas' early exit from the FIBA Asia Cup and what's next for the Philippine team. We'll be speaking with the team's coach, Chot Reyes, as well as other members of Gilas Pilipinas. That and more when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
My father built more and better roads, produced more rice than all administrations before his. President Rodrigo Roa Duterte built more and better than all the administrations succeeding my father. Much has been built, and so well, that the economic dogma of dispersing industry to develop the least likely places has been upturned. Development was brought to them. Investors are now setting up industries along the promising routes built. And yet, the potential of this country is not exhausted. Following these giant steps, we will continue to build. I will complete on schedule the projects that have been started. I'm not interested in taking credit. I want to build on success that's already happening. We will be presenting the public with a comprehensive infrastructure plan. 6 years could be just about enough time. No part of our country will be neglected. Progress will be made wherever there are Filipinos, so no investment is wasted.
You're watching The Big Story here on One News. The struggle continues for Gilas Pilipinas. The national team failed to reach the quarterfinals of the FIBA Asia Cup after falling to Japan in their knockout playoff match 102-81. Gilas once again got off to a slow start and paid the price as Japan built an early double-digit lead and never looked back. Japan led by as much as 28 points. The Japanese team drew double-digit scoring from 5 players, which included 15 points from NBA veteran Yuta Watanabe. Bobby Ray Parks, meanwhile, led the way for Gilas with 16 points and 3 assists, while Kiefer Ravena added 15 points. The loss means that Gilas would miss the quarterfinals of this tournament for the first time in 15 years. Its 9th place finish is also the lowest since 2007.
To talk about what's next for Gilas Pilipinas as they prepare for the 2023 World Cup. Joining us live via Zoom are Gilas head coach Chot Reyes and team captain Kiefer Ravena. Good evening, Coach Chot and Kiefer. Welcome to The Big Story.
Good evening, Gretch. Good evening, Robbie.
Good evening, Sir Robbie. Gretch, good evening.
Coach Chot, diretso ako sa iyo. I mean, hindi naman siguro kaila sa iyo. Our very passionate basketball fans and basketball community in the Philippines. A lot of people are asking for your head and demanding that you resign, citing what they say are historic losses, and really a bad season, let's put it that way. Let me ask you, Do you understand where all of this is coming from? And what is your response to them?
Yes, of course, I understand the Filipino basketball-loving nation. We're very passionate with this sport. And the fact that we have suffered historic defeats, I guess, is really triggering all of this sentiment. But when I took this job, I knew that I came into this with my eyes wide open. I knew it was a very difficult situation. I was given a program with very little left when I took over in February the 1st. This is just my, third or fourth month on the job. And we've really had to start from scratch in rebuilding the program. So I understand where the disappointment and displeasure, the passionate disappointment of our people are coming from, but at the same time, I asked for their understanding as well, because we are building for August 2023. And there are so many plans in place. There are so many preparations being undertaken as we speak. Unfortunately, we couldn't deliver the results. As you know, the team that we have is not only undermanned, but lacks preparation as well. Because of so many different circumstances. And unfortunately, that has brought us to this situation that we find ourselves right now.
Coach, medyo hindi na po bago yung mga problema natin. Matagal-tagal na rin yung sa schedule, limited players. Also, I know recently that the MVP group also and the SMC had a closed-door meeting. And out of that meeting, they said that they will work together to bring the best team possible together. When do you think will we be able to see that come to fruition? Can we expect that next year or anytime soon?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. That meeting was held and precisely agreements were made to make sure that we have the best possible team for August 2023. Right now, everything that you're seeing now, we are not yet seeing the results of that meeting, because, like you said, like we said, it's a process. The PBA, for example, is doing things with their calendar to make sure that they're able to give this team at least 3 months preparation in the run-up for August 2023 for the World Cup. And that's the kind of time and length of preparation that's really needed to be able to form a solid team, a cohesive team. This team, for example, and you can ask Kiefer, he started practicing with this team on July 6th. Am I right, Kiefer? And we left, I mean, not Kiefer, but the other players like 3D, Ray Parks, and even Poy Eram started practicing with the team on July 6th, and we left for Jakarta on July 13th. So that was 1 week preparation, and you're a sports, you're an athlete, Gretchen. You very well know that's not nearly enough for top flight competition. So you're right. The meeting was held, and agreements were made to make sure that we are given enough preparation and all the players that we need for August 2023. That's why we're not yet seeing the results of that meeting right now, right at this moment.
Kiefer, let me turn to you. Your thoughts. I mean, you're a stakeholder here, obviously very central to this team. What are your thoughts, especially as you see people, not just fans, but some of the great basketball minds in the Philippines also questioning the system, questioning your coach, as objective as you could be with your coach. Looks like he's still the coach, with your coach right here with us in the room, so to speak. As objective as you can, what are your thoughts?
Well, honestly, as players, we're here to play lang talaga. Parang whenever we get called up for the country, parang, ang nakakalungkot lang dun is parang laging ang hinahanap yung mga players na wala. Yun yung parang laging nagiging problem lang. So as the players na mga present na nag-sacrifice dito, especially dito din sa mga bata, parang syempre, that's a little bit, sad for us na kami yung nandito pero ang hinahanap yung mga wala eh, di ba? So, but that's how passionate our people are yung pagdating sa basketball. And it's funny, even here in Indonesia, an Indonesian press even asked Coach Shot na parang, anong masasabi mo dito na sa mga ganitong mga bashers, haters, ganyan. And, Coach Shot, he's somebody, as he said, he went to this job with his eyes wide open. And kami din naman mga players, ganun din. Alam namin kung ano yung mangyayari if we don't produce results, di ba? Pagdating sa national team. So, just a little bit more patience and, we're doing our best. Kami mga players talaga, we're doing our best to, represent the flag in our 100% effort in the best way we can.
Coach, you announced a while ago that Jordan Clarkson will be playing for the fourth window of the FIBA Asia Cup. My question about that is, what are our chances of getting him as a local for the World Cup come August? And kung hindi po natin siya makukuha as a local, sino po yung pipiliin natin na naturalize? No? Is it gonna be Kwame? Is it gonna be Clarkson or somebody else?
As for whether he can play as not local or not, I think the best person to ask is the SBP leadership. They had a meeting with FIBA. But for now, I know that he is a naturalized. So he will come in and play as a naturalized player for the next window. Ange Kwame is injured, so that's why he's not here with us. So we don't need to make any choice. Jordan Clarkson will come in as a naturalized player. He has made himself available. That's why we're including him in our list in the lineup for the next window. Moving forward, like I said, there are a lot of plans that are being made, decisions that are being pondered upon. But having Jordan Clarkson, I think, on the team is very, very important. I think it will lift the spirits of the players, hopefully the Filipino people. And at least for the next window, we can already see how he will play with the group of players that we have right now who will be playing with him for the first time, to get a chance to play with him. And every time that we can play together, that's a positive step towards what we are building in August 2023.
Hopefully, some much-needed boost and inspiration for our players in our team. Maraming salamat, Coach Chot Reyes and Team Captain Kiefer Ravena.
Join us in the conversation. Our big question tonight, what are the areas of improvement for Gilas Pilipinas men? Share your thoughts on our Facebook and YouTube live stream or post a tweet with the hashtag #TheBigStory. We will read some of your comments later on in the program.
It's no longer just about shooting like NBA star Stephen Curry. Fans, just like this young hooper, also want to celebrate like him. That and more when The Big Story returns. Keep it here on One News. I'm Gretchen Ho, your woman in action. A young baller from Sucat caught the attention of NBA superstars LeBron James and Stephen Curry after taking Curry's night-night move to the next level. I personally visited the little MVP to see his moves in action. Let's watch this. A young baller from Muntinlupa, Philippines is taking social media by storm after his version of Stephen Curry's night-night celebration became an instant hit, not just among Filipino fans, but even with the babyface assassin himself. Curry's teammate Andre Iguodala also reacted to the viral stunt. Even LA Lakers star LeBron James took notice of the impact of the NBA MVP on the younger generation. Meet third Kirby Agabao from Team Barangay Bagong Silang, the young Stephen Curry of Muntinlupa. At 4 feet, 30 might be small in size, but his handling and dribbling skills are already breaking ankles. Just like Stephen Curry, he's able to find his way to slash through and do damage inside. And as for his shooting skills, he may not yet be able to reach a three-point line, but 30 is already showing flashes of brilliance at a young age.
Sa mga edad niya po, advance na po siya eh. Lalo na sa dribbling, sa shooting, advance po si third. Hindi pa po siya makaabot dun sa 3-point line, pero soon po makakaabot din po.
But Third says he got the skills from his parents who are both into sports.
Player din po ako dati rito no hindi ko yata mabilang MVP ko rito. Inuna ko sa kanya, dribble po muna yung skills sa tinuturo ko sa kanya.
Proud kasi pare-pares na kami player eh. Player din po kasi ang volleyball, tapos siya po.
Despite being unable to get professional training due to the lack of funds, Third makes sure he's always in top condition with the help of his dad, brothers, and other players in the hood. And to see Third's moves up close, I challenged him to a one-on-one game. Galing! To level up his play, we gave Third a little boost with a new pair of Curry's own signature shoes. May mali. Parang may mali sa suot niya. Parang dapat ito. Steph Curry? Steph Curry? Hindi nga, buksan mo nga. Buksan mo, buksan mo. Sige nga, sige nga, sige nga. Suotin mo, suotin mo. Ito pa, ito pa, ito pa, ito pa, ito pa. Meron pa ako. Sige, buksan mo yan. Buksan mo yan. Yay! The little MVP didn't hesitate to showcase his Stephen Curry skills. Layup to the classic go-ahead jumper shot. Galing! And to complete the game, of course, he also showed the viral show ball stunt. I joined in on the fun and did the night-night celly with Third. In the end, Third won the game, 5-3. This young Pinoy hooper has gained a following for his confidence and swagger, but just like his idol Steph, the people around him are there to make sure everything stays on the court. Third says being noticed by his idol Steph, Night-Night Curry inspires him to work even harder. It has also certainly made this barangay in Muntinlupa come alive. Taking from the confidence of Steph, he has this to say to his basketball inspiration.
Stephen Curry, gusto ko po kayong maka one-on-one.
Gretchen Ho, your woman in action, we are One News. Pagod ako doon.
Tinulugan ka lang ni Third.
Grabe, iba-ibang klase yung batang yan.
No.
Mabait.
Alam mo, sa TikTok ko tsaka sa Reels ko, panay basketball sa barangay ang binibigay sa akin na video. Maraming mga Pilipino ganun kagaling.
At saka,
Ganun kagaling mga Alaska.
Oo. Hindi, sabi naman, actually magandang lesson dyan. Gusto na siya turuan ng coach niya na yung mga ganun, sa loob na ng court. Respect your opponents daw outside.
Yeah.
Oo. Magandang lesson yan kay Stephen Curry, kay idol natin yan.
And that's the big story tonight. Big story tonight, 5-3 panalo si third, talo si Gretchen. And for more updates, follow News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World Online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more in-depth analysis. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Gretchen Ho. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.